Hey everyone, welcome back to today's Love Transformation class. Got an interesting one today because something I've been thinking about and I'm really keen to dive into with today's guest expert is this idea that we all think we know what we want when it comes to relationships. We all think we know the kind of partner that we want and the kind of relationship we want. But I often think that there's some really key essential steps that we're missing out on that actually make the process of finding and securing a beautiful relationship a little bit more successful. And I'm super excited to dive into that and a whole lot more today with our beautiful guest, Breanna. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here for me.
Yeah, we're going to have a really good conversation today about quite a few things, but because this is your first time appearing on the Love Breakthrough Virtual Retreat, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about how you found your way to this work.
Totally. Yes, I'm so happy to share. And it is an amazing story for me because it all started out for me with pain and heartache. And I was married for 13 years. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and my marriage ended a couple of years ago. I really tried to make it work and thought I'd be married forever. And it just wasn't meant to be. But what I realized is through the pain and through the heartache, it actually led me to my mission. And so it really liberated me. I was last single when I was 18, and all of a sudden I found myself at 31 single again, which I never thought that I would be, also healing a broken heart. And so I just started working on myself. I was navigating life, healing wounds, rediscovering who I was. And I actually did that throughout dating. And I just constantly had women coming to me going, how are you doing this after breaking up and you're having the time of your life? And all of my friends seem to just really not be having a great time dating. And I think what I'm going to share today and what I do with a lot of my clients has been the secret to actually really having a fun and fabulous time in dating and, not feeling disempowered and not feeling lost or not feeling stuck. It honestly, every step of the way, I learned something. So I'm been studying more. I've become a Psych K facilitator, which is a way of healing and rewiring the subconscious mind. And yeah, it's a really beautiful addition to help a lot of my clients in their dating journey.
Before we sort of dive in to talking about what you've learned on your experience and what you can pass on to all the beautiful women watching, I also want to just circle back to something that you said, and that was that you were learning and healing as you went. Because I think, if I'm right, I know a lot of the women here are very, very focused and very intentional about doing their own inner work. They know how important it is, but maybe sometimes we feel like it's like, when I get to here, then I'll be ready. And we don't have to be, right?
No, not at all. I really actually feel like, and I'm so glad that you bring this up, because I feel like through dating, we actually learn more about who we are. And we don't have that opportunity when we're not dating. And so you don't have to be at this point, at this perfect point, then I'm ready. Sometimes you make mistakes and you're like, oh, well, that's not the sort of person that I want to date. I wouldn't have realized that had I have not gone out and dated or made that mistake, So I was doing the healing while dating. I know that I'm a mama and having separated from my marriage, it was really daunting to go into the dating world. And so I actually saw a coach myself to release traumas and rewire my subconscious mind, because I had these limiting beliefs that who's going to want me? Like, I'm a mom. I think about my body, like I've birthed a baby, and I think about, I really wanted to explore sexually, but I was so scared. And I had this good girl, I can't have sex with someone outside of a long-term relationship. So, I was healing this stuff while dating. And when I healed parts of those, parts of me, or, parts that I was conditioned, it was amazing how it just liberated me. So I just continued to grow and learn throughout all of that. And I really think that that's the best way.
the more pressure I think we put on ourselves, and we put on the more expectation we have about what this date is going to turn out, or who this person's going to turn out to be for us, I think we almost sort of self-sabotage. The weight of that pressure makes dating not fun, right? And then there's a whole heap of things obviously that happen from there. What's your feeling about the right mindset or approach that we should take into dating?
My look at it and my mindset in going into dating, exactly what you say. There's too much pressure these days to go into dating to find the one. You know, so many women are looking for the one, and I get it, and it's daunting and it's scary. And we go on one date and we're like, oh, could he be the one? I think if we can treat dating like just fun and a bit more of an experiment, and also go into it with the expectation not to find the one straight away. So I share this with my clients as well. And I feel like this is why I had such a beautiful experience, is that, yes, I wanted to find, I don't know if I'd say the one, but I wanted to find someone to settle down with eventually. I wanted to have more children, and I love being in a really committed, conscious relationship. However, I didn't know what I liked anymore. So I was like, I'm going to go into dating and treat it like an experiment in a way. Authentic, but be like, okay, what is it that I like? So I went into it, going on dates with people that would never normally, I would never stop by in the street, but they seemed interesting and they had some similar values. And I was like, let's just try it out. And honestly, the best things came from those interactions. The men that I thought that I would not be into at all taught me more about actually what I value and actually what I want in a relationship. And that led me to my now relationship. So I think have fun with it, play around, see what you like, and you'll be able to learn and grow along the way.
What are some of the things that we might be surprised about through the process of dating, that we find out about ourselves, our likes and our dislikes? What are some examples of some of the things that we can discover?
Often we go into dating, we have a checklist, or there's a lot of women that have a checklist, and a lot of it is very superficial. And I think that we can go into dating and then realize that they're the things that they don't actually ultimately light us up. So, I mean, I feel like that a lot of women would get that. It's like, he's got to have this job or this much money or tall, dark, handsome with blue eyes, but I just don't think that ultimately that's what brings happiness. There's so much more depth that gets missed when we just do an initial list. And we often disregard a lot of men in the dating pool because they don't fit that list. And so we're actually missing out on a whole heap of potential that's probably more of our match. And so if we can go into it with more of an open mind, less of a list, but just getting curious to learn more about ourselves, I think what you'll find, and what a lot of my clients find, is they actually end up dating someone completely different to who they imagined initially, but they're so much happier. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
Yes, absolutely. We're not talking about having a relationship with someone that you're not attracted to, right?
No, not. And if I can just preface it, like I'll also say, my current partner, he's not someone that I would have gone for in looks wise. I always said I loved dark. I loved really tanned. I loved dark hair, more of a, European look. He's completely opposite. He's got blonde hair, blue eyes. But, had I just been gone for my initial look that I was into when I was 18 years old, I would have been like, no, he's not for me. But there's so many other beautiful qualities, and I'm super attracted to him, but he's just not what I thought my look was. So yeah.
There's a lot of other things that come to mind as well when we have this idea of who it is that we want. For example, I hear a lot of women say, he needs to be this or this or this professionally, or he needs to be a business owner. And then when you actually drill down on it, another one of their desires is, I want him to be a really hands-on dad, and I want him to be home on weekends. And sometimes we don't realize that there's a conflict between things that we think we want and the things that we actually want, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's why when you start the dating journey and you actually interact with these people that you're going on dates with, you realize more so what is important to you and what's not. And some things will completely not even be in your mind, in your conscious awareness. And it's only through the dating process that it will come to the forefront of your mind, and you go, yeah, I want that. And you start to picture it, you know. And one simple thing could be, well, like you said, I want him to be a hands-on dad. I want him to be at home on weekends. I want him to be home for dinner. I want to be able to cook with him, you know, something that my ex would never do with me. And I didn't even I forgot about it until I was dating and until I was cooking with someone. And I was like, I love this. I love this connection, but I wouldn't have known that. And women won't know that until they just start the dating process, not necessarily wanting that date to be the one, just being really curious.
Yeah, there's so many things. If you think about cooking is a great example, because I hear a lot of women say, I want him to be really health conscious, and, you know, he's got a fantastic physique and he really looks after himself. And it's like, sure, but that guy probably goes to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, or he might do triathlons or something. And he's probably not the guy that's going to be spending weeknights cooking pasta with you at home, right?
True. It's very true. They're all things that you got to consider. Like, yeah, and I think this is where we get to the non-negotiables, you know. So what are your non-negotiables? And this will change. And this is why I really just think going into dating and wanting to see, what do I like? What do I actually like? What do I value? What are my non-negotiables? And you'll start with a list that you think are your non-negotiables. And that will change and that will evolve. And so I think this time between being single to finding the one, that, you know, however long that is, it doesn't have to be a certain amount of time, but just allowing there to be that space so you can grow and evolve and become really clear and certain about exactly what you want. Because when you do, you can then communicate that to your partner. And I think having that communication in the beginning and having that transparency and everything on the table, it really sets a relationship up for success by sharing what your needs are and hearing what your partner's needs are. But you can only do that when you're really clear in your mind, you know?
Let's talk a little bit about that, getting intentional, because I know that a lot of the girls watching are really strongly of the philosophy of law of attraction. So even to the finest detail, if I set out what it is that I really desire to manifest in a man and can get as clear on that as possible, then I'm obviously putting that out of what I want to call in. What are your thoughts about the specifics and being intentional, and what do you advise your clients about how we set ourselves up to get clear on what it is that we want?
Totally. And I'm definitely all about the manifestation as well, but the manifestation, it also takes action. And so what I actually get my clients to do to start out, first of all, we go through a bit of a healing process, but then writing, and I think this is a really beautiful activity, is writing a life script of a day in your dream life. And so it might be 1 page, it might be 2 pages, it might be a little bit longer, but this will be something that, you know, my clients, or something that you would read every single day. And the idea behind this is to literally share your whole day from the time you wake up, what that looks like, what that feels like, have that be really visual. You know, it's like I wake up to the sound of pitter patter on the floorboards, and I, you know, open my eyes and I see my husband laying next to me, and I can see the sunlight coming through the window. And so you actually get to, and that's just a little snippet, but, you know, it evokes feeling, it evokes emotion. And then you start to be like, okay, what really is important to me? Like you said, you want a hands-on dad. Sure, you want to live in a beautiful home, but what is most important? And so you start to work out actually what your non-negotiables are. So you write a life script, you realize that's what you're looking for. That's the life you're looking for, then that's the man that you're looking for. And you start to have some clarity of what really is important and what's aligned to you, and what's alive for you. So that's what I usually get my clients to start with. And then I ask them to get really clear on what they want in a man. And that's the non-negotiables. And again, this is where it changes. I get them to go out and have fun dating, and just really play with it and be like, okay, how did this go? How did I feel about him in this area? Maybe I'll scrap that off my list, but I'm going to add this on. So it is a little bit of, in a way, it's a little bit of a game.
Can you define for me the difference between like a non-negotiable and a highly desirable trait or aspect? This is the way that I like to think of it, because a lot of our list of the things that we want, I do think are negotiable potentially.
Yes.
Right. Except when it comes down to things like, for a lot of people, smoking, you know, does he or doesn't he want to have a child? And does that match up?
Absolutely.
Things like that. But I think a lot of the things that we desire in a partner. So for me, I don't eat meat, and it would be pretty important to be with someone who doesn't eat meat as well. But I also have to ask myself, if I met this guy and he was absolutely amazing in every other way, everything about him was beyond what I imagined my ideal dream partner to be, but he ate meat, would I or wouldn't I be able to look past that? And I think that's, for me, that's where I sort of drill down to, are these one of my simple, basic non-negotiables or
Totally.
not? Yeah.
And I feel the same. And that was actually something, so I also don't eat meat. And it's something that, so in the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to be in first of all, I wasn't going to date anyone that ate meat. But I was definitely not going to be in a relationship with anyone that ate meat. And then I expanded and I realized it's probably not as important to me as long as they don't push it on me and they're open to eating more of a plant-based lifestyle. And so through dating, I dated guys that ate meat. And I really, but I wouldn't have known that. I was just a bit too sort of stuck in my ways, and I just realized what was more important. So yeah, you're right. Look, to be honest, I probably don't have an answer to, you know, the non-negotiables and a highly desirable trait. I do think that there will be some non-negotiables, but they will change, right?
I remember once I was going through these with a client as well, and she was a long distance runner. And one of the things that she put down on her list was, I really want a man that actually runs, so that we can go running sometimes. And then we had to sort of think, okay, is this just a highly desirable trait? If you met a man that was like fit and healthy and perfect in every other way, and he didn't run, would that be okay? And she thought about it, and she thought, actually, no. She's like, because I'm running 5-6 nights a week, I absolutely don't want to give that up. And if I'm going to have some kind of time, it's really important for me that he also can come out running with me, you know, once or twice a week. And she got clear on the fact that that was a non-negotiable, whereas for most of us, that wouldn't be a non-negotiable, right?
Totally. Absolutely. And that's why I say it's sort of down to the individual as well, because what's a non-negotiable for me will be like completely different for someone else. But I think it's when you just think about it and you're super clear about, no, this is what I really, really want. And I also think, sometimes we can have non-negotiables that are more like a societal non-negotiable, but it's not fully aligned to us and our lifestyle and who we are. And that's where I feel like when you start dating, you'll realize more so what your non-negotiables are. And they'll be more like authentic rather than just, you know, a standard list that a lot of women have.
What would be an example of a societal non-negotiable?
I think it just, the societal non-negotiables, and I just hear this from so many women, it is definitely a high paying, I mean, some of them can be really extreme to the, like they've got to have this much savings, they've got to own their own house, they've got to be in no debt, they need to earn this much money, they need to be in like a senior job. And do you know what, once upon a time, that probably would have been mine as well. But then I realized that actually doesn't make me happy. Like I had a husband that was earning a good wage, that, you know, was his own boss, that had all this freedom, that, you know, we did have the life luxuries. But you know what? He wasn't home in the evenings. He wasn't home on weekends. He wasn't there at all. And I think it's only through these experiences that you realize, oh, that's actually what I want. So yeah.
Because I can also feel a lot of women get a little bit triggered's probably not the right word, but a little bit maybe defensive about this, because they've taken so much time to develop their own sense of self-worth, right? To get to the point where they're like, but no, I know that I deserve that. I deserve a man who's financially secure. I deserve a man who's this. I deserve a man who's that. So I know that a lot of the women are really feeling strongly about that.
Absolutely. And safety is one of our, I think as a feminine, ultimately we need to feel safe. We absolutely need to feel safe. And so I think it was just lowering the bar for me, or for a lot of my clients. I'm like, do you really need someone to earn, X amount, or could it just be here? Like, of course we're not talking about having a bum that doesn't work, that would completely take us out of our feminine. I think it's just about working out what really makes us feel safe, and why it is that we're wanting them to earn all this money and have no debt. It's because we want to feel safe. But safety also looks like other things as well. Safety looks like being able to communicate regularly and have regular conversation and being understood, being heard, being held, being seen. And if you have a man, I'm not saying this is generalizing a lot, but if you're having a man that's earning a really big income in a really senior role, they're not going to be around to make you feel safe in these other ways. So safety is so much more than just money. And I think it's about having a balance of all of it.
I'm interested to hear, for all the mums that are watching as well, what your experience was, and if there's anything different about dating as a mum, or anything different about dating if you've been in a marriage for a long time and it feels really new.
I think one of the biggest things as a mama is our self-worth. And I've got so many, a lot of my clients are separated mums, and they come out of it feeling so broken, having so many more heartaches and traumas and stress around the past. And so I really believe some of the biggest things are healing. So do the work on yourself, invest in a healer to help work on your self-worth, because that completely changed the trajectory of my dating experience. I was then able to go into it more confidently. I think the other beautiful thing about being a separated mum is we have this life experience, it doesn't feel, for me, so desperate. And I think for a lot of my clients that are separated mums, so desperate to find the one straight away. Whereas when you don't have children and you haven't, it feels like you're still desperately wanting that. So it gives you a little bit more space and time, and we're able to then be really much more clear on what we want because we've had these past experiences. I think that the painful past experiences help us grow and help us learn exactly what we want more so. So it's actually a gift. It really is a gift if we can really heal our wounds and our traumas. So that is what I would say. And then just go into it and have fun, and you actually have an opportunity. Like I felt like a teenager again going out and in the dating world. Once once you've worked on your self-worth and you're like, yeah, I can't wait to experience this now. It's actually so much fun. So I think it's amazing.
And yeah, to be clear, we're not necessarily talking about putting your high heels on and having to go to the nightclub dancing around with 21-year-olds, are we? We're so lucky in this day and age that we do have so many options as far as dating and actually, air quotes, putting ourselves out there. What are some of the ways in which that have been successful and fruitful and fun for your clients?
In all honesty, the majority of it is dating apps. I mean, it's online. It could be online on like social media and things like that, but I think dating apps, because it's much more intentional as well. And look, I had never been on dating apps before until I separated a couple of years ago. So it was completely new for me and overwhelming. The one thing I will say, it can be really time consuming. So the more clear and upfront you are and transparent around what you want, like what your intentions are from this dating experience, the more time it will save you, the more enjoyment you'll get out of it, and the faster you're likely to match up with someone who's looking for exactly what you're looking for as well. And that's probably one of the best tips that I can give.
You mentioned like getting really clear about what it is that you're wanting. from the experience. And so let's assume that most of the women watching do actually want to find a soulmate type relationship, something that has commitment and something that has longevity. And that's a bit of a tricky one, right? Because we also know going out and just having fun, right? If that's the intention of dating, then how do we sort of navigate then that communication or that filtering out process of like, I want to go out and just have fun, but I'm actually looking for a soulmate partnership. When does the communication of that come in, or do I just not how does that work?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. I'm really glad that we're touching on this. So I absolutely believe in being fully transparent. And so the way that I talk to my clients about this and in my own experience is that I would go into it saying, ultimately, I want to find someone to settle down with. And, if they ask more questions, I usually leave it reasonably brief, but I want to settle down with someone. If they ask, do you want more kids? Yes, absolutely. But right now, I am exploring exactly what I want. And so, and I would even go a step further for myself. I had said I am looking for an emotional and a physical connection, but not exclusive until I find exactly what I'm looking for. So I was super upfront, and it always, the men that were happy with that were on board. They were like, thank you for being like open and honest. And I got that in return, which I love, because I just don't love the games as much. And the men that didn't want that wanted a relationship straight away, which most of the time they were like, that sounds really cool. Like, it's reasonable. I think it's also very, men are receptive to that, because they're like, they don't want just a woman to just want any guy that wants a relationship. They actually want the woman to be really in, they want to know that she's into it fully, not just for the relationship, but for him. And so any guy that wanted a relationship straight away, they were like, I love this. I'd love to get to know you. So I think it works really beautifully.
Yes, and I love that you made that distinction too, because a lot of us can't help ourselves when we start dating. We show up and the energy does change a little bit, where we start to feel this desire of wanting that person to choose us, wanting to feel, sort of like, here I am putting myself out there, please pick me, is kind of the energy that creeps in a little bit. And that's not really, and it sounds like through your intentional process of getting clear about what you want and continuing to explore that, it meant that you were in a position where, correct me if I'm wrong, you were also evaluating what your options were, not I'm sitting here hoping that you pick me.
Very much. And it was very clear about that. It was just, there was no commitment around it, but we were very clear. There were some men that came back and were like, I just want a physical connection. And I'm like, look, sorry, that's not me. Like, I also want an emotional connection, and it's great. You can still be amicable and express your wants and needs and desires. But I do feel that this is definitely a much more appealing way for men to receive this, but it's also a more appealing way for a woman. If a man was to show up and just want a relationship with whoever he came across, that for me, that doesn't feel very appealing. I'm like, oh, it's a bit too desperate. So same goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first thing we would think of is, if a guy came with that energy of, I desperately want a relationship, do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want it?
Yeah.
You would think, wait, you actually don't even know me yet.
Totally.
And I think it's really, really important to point out. Any other tips or advice that you have as you see sort of navigating through these early stages of dating?
Yeah. Look, I think women tend to want to, and I'm in this as well. Women tend to want to control the situation. We want to just be like, and know what they're thinking and feeling all the time. And even though I set the intention of, and with my clients as well, that, okay, I'm just exploring right now. Eventually I want to settle down, but I'm not putting a time frame to it. But we still tend to be like, oh, is he into me? Does he want a relationship with me? And we tend to overthink. And so I find it really helpful. And in that phase for me, and this may not be for everyone, but it's certainly what I take my clients through, is actually, if you're dating someone, not in a relationship, but if you're dating someone, I think it's really helpful if you're trying to get to know who you are and what you want, is to date multiple people. And it sort of takes it, and you're clear, like I would say from the very beginning, this is not monogamous. This is not exclusive. And so, and they're open to do the same. And I find it keeps at bay our neediness. And wanting to push ourselves on them until we work out, okay, maybe this is someone I want to be, spend more time with, and maybe I'm going to not date anyone else and see how this goes. So I would say explore your options. There is honestly nothing wrong with that. There definitely is a societal thing where it's like, oh, we can get, and from a young age, we can get labeled a slut if we're dating more than one person. And this is where I think if we can rewire our subconscious mind to be, actually, this is my opportunity to explore and get this right this time, rather than just, because when we have a physical connection with someone, it like advances our hormones, it advances our emotional connection, and we think, oh, this is the one, and we just ignore all these signs that don't fit actually what we're looking for. So this is where I think it can all go wrong often. But if we're actually setting the intention to explore, and we have, a dating multiple partners, it could just be, it might not be, having a physical connection with all of them, but it could be going on dates, getting to know them, go for a walk. It's a really beautiful way to get to know yourself and what you're looking for.
And it definitely means that we're not always then putting all of our hopes and our thoughts and our expectations on that one person coming through. It takes the pressure off, especially if there is one guy, and often there is anyway one guy that's sort of a bit more of a standout, but it helps to sort of take the pressure off if that's spread out across some interest with a number of men. You also have an incredible free gift to offer our audience as well.
I do. And I'm so excited to share this as well. So I have a 5-step process of how to call in your dream lover. And it's also exactly like you say, it doesn't have to be super complicated. It is super simple, but really effective. And so this is for the women that want to have fun in their dating journey. They're sick of like just constantly trying to find the right one, and it's just not happening. They're feeling defeated. So this is a proven way to call in the lover that you want, and to, just come back to your feminine and feel empowered and confident and sexy, and really enjoy this journey. So that is what I'm offering for everyone here today. How are we doing it? If we get someone we'll send a link through on this.
Yes, so the link to access that beautiful gift from Breanna will be linked up down below, and also all of her social medias. I encourage you to go and follow her all over on social. Do you have any final thoughts, any last words you'd like to share with the ladies?
I don't think so. I think we've gotten, deep today, and I'm just so grateful to be here. This work is so powerful. And I think that also this gets to be fun. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be scary. You actually get to just rediscover more about yourself. So this gets to be a really beautiful journey if you let it be. So I hope this was really helpful, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of our event this year. Bye for now.